Hey everyone, this is Seth Klebe, the host of Watch the Tech. Welcome if this is your first time, or welcome back if you've listened to a few of the episodes before. I have a phenomenal guest today. She is really special, and I'm very excited to have her on the show. But before she comes in, I want to tell you about the watch that I'm going to be wearing. So I have the Rolex Datejust 36 in the palm motif with an oyster steel bracelet and the white gold fluted bezel. So the story behind this watch, which is truly one of my favorites, is I bought this as a birthday present for myself. I really wasn't in the market, and I knew I wanted something with a green dial eventually. And then Rolex came out of nowhere and dropped this watch during the 2021 Watches and Wonders. And I just knew I had to have it. Some of you, if you know me in my professional life, you know that I wear Hawaiian shirts on Friday. I have been doing that uh, as long as I've been working, basically. And I actually do that because my dad, he worked in technology. He did Hawaiian Shirt Friday. So it's a little bit of an ode to him. And then I worked at Salesforce for about 3 years, and they also did the Hawaiian Shirt Friday thing. So I just carried it on. So I reached out to my authorized dealer and I said, please, 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 please put me on the list for this watch. And he did, which was a miracle at the time. They took 2 total orders for this watch. It took 9 months, and then I got this watch, and it was my first true special AD experience picking this watch up. I mean, we're inside right now, and just look at how that green dial shines. I'm a sunburst watch person, and so this just had to be mine, and I love the proportions of the 36 Datejust. So this is my Rolex. I'm the only owner of this watch, and I will be the only owner of this watch. Also, today's episode is brought to you by, once again, Everest Bands, the ultimate source for premium watch straps and accessories. Whether you're looking to upgrade your Rolex or add a new level of comfort and style to your timepiece, Everest has you covered with high quality, custom designed bands. Elevate your watch game today at Everest. What's going on, Anastasia? Welcome
Thank you.
to the world of Watch the Tech. How's your day going?
I'm good. I'm in Aruba, so life's pretty good. Can't complain.
Vacation?
Yes, kind of. Yeah, I've been all over the place. So I have a yearly scuba trip with my old boss, who's my scuba dive master. And so I was kind of like, instead of going all the way back to San Francisco, let's just stay out on the East Coast. And Aruba happened to have flights because Spirit is going bankrupt. So I guess they're trying to get people on flights.
They sure are going bankrupt. And was that a surprise to anyone? So if you're diving, real scuba diving, unlike all the finance bros who have Rolexes,
Yeah.
is there like a cool dive watch that you're using? Or is it like a digital one like most divers actually use?
Yeah, so I have a dive computer, and it's actually attached to my tank. Though when the new Apple Watch came out, the sport one, they actually have scuba diving function on that one. So I did consider upgrading to the newest Apple Watch because of that scuba dive function.
Yeah. I have a particular vendetta against all the brands that will sell their watches as these scuba diving, like the Sea Dwellers and the Blancpain 50 Fathoms. Like, they're great watches, don't get me wrong, but like every advertisement is someone just plunging into the depths of the ocean. And let's be real, that's pretty much no one who owns one, maybe like 1 percentage point. So I'm always of the mind like ads should just be you're going and getting a coffee in that
Yeah.
Rolex.
Like
You're
how people actually wear them, right? But yeah, my dive computer does all the calculations. Like, I want my dive watch to tell me when I'm not going to die, right? Like, I want it to tell me, like, hey, you're going too fast up, or hey, like this thing is happening. Hey, you're running out of oxygen. Like that's a little bit more useful to me. But fun fact, actually, you don't want to wear shiny things underwater, especially where I'm going to be diving. Wednesday, Friday, I'm diving in Key Largo. The barracudas really like shiny things. So I never take like anything off really when I go diving. Like all my stuff is just I'm a consistent person. I just keep the same things. I shower, I swim in them and everything. But the barracuda like shiny things. So, and I forgot to take it off before the dive and they started following me around.
Smart. Okay. Well, we're 3 minutes into this and we've already established you're super cool and you actually scuba dive. So if anyone should be getting a dive watch, it should actually be you. Well, once again, Anastasia Marchenkova, welcome to Watch the Tech. It's
Thank you.
phenomenal to have you here and get to spend some time with you. So, as I started to do some research on you, it became clear that your interest in quantum computing, which is really where you've spent a lot of your career, it began at undergrad at Georgia Tech and you studied physics and you were also a research assistant. But then after you were like, I want more school. So then you did your PhD, right, at University of Maryland and then a stint at the Berkeley Lawrence lab as well.
Yep.
But then, interesting turn, Coursera and Pendo as a SaaS engineer, right? Building software. But then you went back into the quantum world, and that leads you to really where you are today, running One Quark Media, which, let me see if my elevator pitch is okay.
Yeah.
One Quark Media focuses on media and brand marketing for deep tech companies to share their ideas with the world.
Definitely.
How'd I do?
Well, that's amazing. That was one of the things I discovered was a big problem in the industry because I would be building these companies and having the worst time hiring people in marketing because they didn't understand the technology. Consults, I work with venture capital firms right now, especially in the quantum space. I work with quantum companies, deep tech, thermodynamic computing, AI, and I just really enjoy being on the cutting edge of technology. And it's kind of what I've built my brand around.
That's awesome. Well, watches are definitely around the corner in a second, but as I also started researching, I realized I don't know shit about quantum computing. Very little. So, for the layman and laywoman out there, how would you describe quantum computing and why do you believe it's so important?
Yeah, so I got into it actually over 15 years ago now, so it's been a while, and nobody thought quantum was really a thing back then. Obviously, we were doing research at the time, but it was not of the time it is today. But basically, quantum computing is a new way of doing calculations using quantum systems. So just like you have a GPU in your computer to help with graphics processing, because it's optimized for that, quantum computers can also help us solve specific types of problems much faster. So a lot of our medicines, they have to go through a lot of simulation and testing, toxicology work. It takes like $10 billion to just create one drug. If you could just help, of those 10,000 candidate molecules that a company has, be like, well, let's say these 5,000 don't work already, and we can just do a computer simulation instead of having to actually go and create all these molecules and test them.
That's awesome. Unless you're talking about a Patek Philippe grand complication, most watches probably couldn't be farther from quantum computing. So, what got you into them?
Well, actually, I wouldn't say that's exactly the case, right? Yeah, so I actually worked at NIST, the Institute of Standards and Technology, for a little bit when I was at Maryland, and basically NIST sets our standards, and one of the standards they set is time. And so time is really interesting. So like, how do you define a second? And then besides that, my first watch was a gift. I was always just such a hands-on person in mechanical. There's something really special about just seeing that mechanical versions, like really small tools, just such precision in the technology that I find really fascinating.
It's awesome. Well, I stand corrected. In that case, mechanical watches do play into the quantum world, which is really cool to think about. So going back to this, your first watch was a gift. What was that watch?
So I have it next to me. It's my Louis Serrard watch here. Here we go.
Okay.
Really well. So it was my graduation gift from college. So yeah, my dad definitely he always had some nice watches back in the day. I still have his laying in my his Rolex laying in my safe as well that I kept.
I'd never actually heard about them prior, and only recently have I started to do any research on the brand, but it looks just clean and functional too. It looks like it's got a chronograph So very classic. I love the Roman
Yes.
numerals
And I
as
love
well.
yeah, I wish I could maybe show you the back a little bit here.
Okay.
But beautiful engraving on the back as well that I really
Nice.
like.
The butterfly closure too is always really
Hmm.
nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm back and forth on that. What do you think?
Personally, I like them a lot. I think though, regardless whether it's that or it's just a pin buckle, it's like roughly the same thing. They both hold the watch pretty securely, so it's just preference. The nice thing about that particular style of butterfly is every time perfect fit. Goes
Yep,
on, off, same thing. You don't have to go find the hole for the pin buckle every time.
definitely. Yeah.
So that's
So,
a
I mean,
plus.
it pretends here as
Right.
well.
Yep.
So, a little different from like this watch that we'll talk about in a second, but yeah, love it. I mean, it is pretty large again, so as I mentioned, the wrist issue, so I do love it. I mean, it is something I use more for, dressed up occasions, but I do think because of the leather, you can go back and forth a little bit, at least for me. I find that makes it a little bit more casual. I don't know. I think the all metal for me makes it more of like a jewelry piece.
Hmm.
And there's this whole like thing going around like women weren't allowed to wear watches until like certain years, and it just wasn't a thing. So there used to be this trend of like women's watches are much smaller usually, and right now there's a trend of very big watches, right? But then they used to have like the closures so it looked like a bracelet, right? So the women's watches are almost, yeah, like even more intricate, I feel, because you have to fit so much in a tiny
Hmm.
space.
It's true, and that's interesting actually because the first wristwatch was actually made for women because the pocket watch they couldn't carry them because they didn't have pockets.
Yep.
So someone will take the credit for like the first wristwatch,
Yeah.
but yeah,
A problem
typically
that remains today. We still don't have pockets.
right. But when a dress has a pocket, like the celebrations that I hear over that, it's phenomenal.
It's a big deal. It's a big
It is a
deal.
big deal. Yeah, pockets and dresses, big deal. But
Yes.
actually, I want to have this conversation with you about smaller watches versus bigger watches. Like for you, what is your preference? Do you like them smaller? Do you like them larger? Obviously, the one you just showed is like it's sizable. That's pronounced.
I have gone towards like the smaller watches in general. So
Okay.
I think like my high school watch gift I got was like a Skagen, right? Like, so again, very sleek. So I prefer the small. So there's this
Sure.
trend, especially women, stacked bracelets. And instead, you put on the watch that's smaller and it
Mm-hmm.
looks really nice, right? It replaces a jewelry piece for me. So then I don't
Okay.
feel like I'm like weighed down also with everything going on. But I live in San Francisco right now, so I don't have a lot of space. So I'm like, I need like the two great things that work for every occasion. And then I'm just going to go with it. And I wear them all the time. And so when I got this watch, I actually got this one not very long ago. It was my gift to myself for my 30th birthday. And
Oh, cool. Oh, don't put that away yet. Bring that back. Yeah, show me this thing. Okay. Oh, wait, there we go.
there we go.
Nice. Is that a 31? Has to be. Or
24
24.
24 millimeter. Yeah.
Really tiny.
It's
Okay.
small,
And
but
time
for my
only?
looks.
Oh, I
So they
love
don't
that.
make these anymore. So this one is from 1972, I believe. And I mean, for me, it fits really well,
Yeah.
like this size. So yeah, it's
Okay.
very, very tiny.
Got it.
But yeah, I think the size works perfectly for me. I actually like that I can see the band also, right? So the problem is sometimes with the big ones, you don't even see the band, but I love that this becomes part of
Right.
the design as you're going back and forth.
Yeah. It looks like an early version of it's a Jubilee bracelet by
Hmm.
all accounts, but
Yeah. It's like not too dense. I don't know. It just works. And
mhm.
I saw it. I saw it on like Instagram. Randomly it popped up and I was like, I have to have this watch. Like for some reason, I didn't know what it was. I just saw it and I was like, it's such an amazing piece. I found this one in a shop in New York. So yeah, it was like a multi-year long story of seeing it, loving it, budgeting for it, and then coming out. But yeah, it's a jewelry piece. It is all gold, but it's an everyday.
Okay. So between these two watches, which one's your favorite to wear?
Man, I can't say bad things about my dad's gift. No,
We
I
do
mean,
the hard hitting
I
questions here on
know,
Watch
I
the
know.
Tech. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this one is just,
Serious podcast.
yeah, this is just my everyday. And I love things that I can wear every day that, again, I don't have to be precious about. Like, again,
Hmm.
because it's from 72 and it's in fantastic condition. You put it on, I don't take it off some of the time, right? This is probably bad. Like, I'm sure there's going to be comments here from like watch people being like, I can't believe you like wear this in seawater and things like that. But I do it. And so I just love having something so easy every day that I just put on. I feel it makes me feel put together too. So there is this little thing that I do also have about like I have my founder mode and I have my investor mode, and I don't wear my fancy watches in like founder mode because it's like you don't want to go to investor and be like, oh, I need to raise funding, and they're like, well, you're wearing a Rolex, like maybe you don't actually need the funding. But as an investor, stepping up the vibe a little bit is good. This I do like because again, like there's just so many trends. So I do love this because it's a brand that people haven't heard of, but then you look at it, you're like, oh, okay, like this is not like a Shein, watch. There's something like it's actually very heavy. It's hefty. Like, and people start looking at it, they're like, oh, this is really cool. I haven't heard of the brand. This is something really new. So I do enjoy this, wearing this sometimes as well. It is big though, right? So it has to go with like the right outfit. But yeah, I love kind of wearing this for more, I wouldn't say more formal occasions because of the size, but just it's a statement
Right.
around.
Well, I love what you said earlier about your Rolex that like you wear it, it's while it is precious, you don't have to treat it as precious
Right.
and like you swim with it. I think a lot of people they're afraid to do that with Rolexes and even like brand new ones that have like full water rating and everything. But Rolex was designed for the water. It's
Yeah.
meant to be worn in
Right.
water. So as long as it's got the screw down crown and it's been serviced recently, like there's no reason why
Yeah.
that thing won't keep ticking underwater. So good for you. Do you have a next watch in sight that you'd like to add to your collection?
I mean, I have like the ultimate watch. It's the Cartier the Panther, but the one where the gold beads drop down to form the face of it. So I think it's Revelation watch. It's at like what 130K euros, so more in
Okay,
dollars.
so this is the I've made it, money is no object dream watch.
Long term, very very long
Yes.
term.
Hmm. I've seen that watch when it came out, and I've got to say, I love it. Like how they've managed to play with it looks like a completely clear case. Those little gold beads just look completely chaotic, and then all of a sudden, twist and cascade, and then it settles for a brief moment into the Panther, and then it's gone. I find that like very effervescent, very cool. I could not probably read the time with that watch because there's no hour markers. So probably not for me, but definitely an art piece. And it's funny you mentioned Cartier. I have just been recently taking a little bit more of a look into some of their watches. They released a Santos dual time
Mhm.
in a gray dial that looks really cool. And then that kind of led me into this deeper researching stage where now I'm starting to look at the Santos Dumont Cartiers. And even they make unfortunately, they don't make it anymore, but they make a solar tank. It looks everything like a normal mechanical watch, normal
Mhm.
tank that they make, but it has a invisible solar cell directly underneath the hands, and I think that thing is so cool.
It's an interesting brand, right? I think it also stands the test of time. So I love that piece of it. But one question for you is, do you actually use your watch to tell time? Because I don't. So sometimes, you're like, oh, it's, my watch is completely off. I'm traveling all the time. So half the time I'm like, "Ugh, am I really going to reset this to the right time zone? I'm not going to do that, right? For time.
Well, let me tell you a story to answer that question. So, I was in New Orleans several years ago. My watch collection was much smaller at that point in time, and I had decided that I needed my first steel bracelet, steel watch, like sports watch. And there was a Rolex AD in New Orleans. I walked in and I was just trying to like get a feel for Rolex watches. I knew, I just knew them by looks. I didn't know a ton at the time. And the AD in the store, they had several watches that were actually at this time like all available for purchase. and I saw a Oyster Perpetual, so time only, 36 millimeter, I believe. And it was a rhodium dial, and there were white hour markers only on the 6 and the 9, I think.
Mhm.
Possibly it was the 369, all had the hour markers with lume. The other ones were these tiny little dark gray sticks, and the dial was already rhodium dark gray. And in the store, the most perfect lighting you could possibly have inside, right? It's staged the nth degree. And I just kept going like this. I'm like, it's really hard to read the time. And the saleswoman said to me, well, a lot of people don't buy these for the time. And I'm like, well, that's silly. And then I just gave it back to her and left the store and promptly went out in New Orleans. So that's a long way of saying I absolutely do actually use my watches for time. And I prefer, maybe it's just because I've been wearing them for so long, but I have my phone right here. I can see the time from my laptop, of course, but I buy a watch for the form and the function, and to also just keep me away from the digital world for a
Yep.
moment.
Yep. That's why I had to
That's,
go away from the Apple Watch.
yeah, I could never do the Apple Watch. I feel like it
Yeah.
would digitally wear me down. I used to wear Fitbits,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
I would wear a watch
And the
and a
Fitbit.
Fitbit, and talk about fashion suicide. But yeah, not for me, not for me. So just a
It
watch
was
now.
I remember, yeah, when I had the Apple Watch, there was this like Tumblr tweet or something that went viral. It's like, please take off your Apple Watch when you're going to a formal event. You look like a spy kid. And I'm like,
Yes.
that's the point. Like, amazing. I wanted to be a spy kid all my life. So yeah, that was definitely a positive of that, but makes sense. But now, kids can't read analog time anymore. I've seen that they stopped teaching that in school. Like, I
We're
wonder,
so screwed as a society, but that's a whole separate podcast. I think Lex Friedman covers that one, the
Mm,
implosion of society.
yes, not this podcast. We talk
Yeah, I'm going
about
to let
the
him own
nice
that.
watches. But I wonder if that's why, the brands are starting to move away from those, I don't know, maybe if you've seen it, are they starting to move away from having the numbers, or the adding the numbers in because people don't know how to read it
No,
analog?
it just depends on the brand. Like some of them, there are watches that are hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's, genuinely not the easiest to actually read the
Yep.
time. You have to learn the dial,
Hmm.
and that's never really been my style. I want it to just be so clearly this is time, this is date, hello, because I want to look at this and not in a rude way when I'm in a social situation, to actually know all right, cool, when can I Irish goodbye out of this party,
Yeah.
right? I need to time that. I've got one final question for you, and then we'll wrap up. My question is, does quantum computing and Gen AI have a relationship in your mind?
So the question is, like, right now, no, right? I mean, there's some interesting research being done on electronic design analysis tools where you could actually use ML to maybe help out with designing a quantum computer, but in the end, you need quantum systems to simulate quantum systems. So I'm waiting for that quantum computer to come out to actually be able to do commercially viable things. And yeah, I think in the end, I really believe in human ingenuity. So it'll all come together in the end.
Well, Anastasia Marchenkova, thank you so much for joining us on Watch the Tech and spending some time with me going through both quantum computing and your watch collection and watch aspirations. Everyone who is listening, go follow Anastasia. She has some fantastic YouTube and social channels that are all way bigger than mine. So you'll have some fun with those and you'll learn a lot. So really appreciate you. And also thank you to Everest Watch Bands, our sponsor. So if you like this episode, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much.